Welcome to JYSooner and AtlantaSooner present Oklahoma football and recruiting. I'm Chris Mason, AtlantaSooner. I've been following OU football and recruiting obsessively for the last 25 years. My partner in crime in this endeavor is JYSooner of trench warfare fame. JY, how you doing?
Doing good, Chris. Hey, gang, I'm JYSooner, also known as Jason Young. We're going to be breaking down Broken Arrow's finest tonight here, Robert Spears Jennings, after Chris dropped some recruiting stuff on you here real quick.
Yep, this is our third Tulsa area DB recruiting evaluation from the 2022 class. And Robert was actually in the spring game, so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But first off, we're going to talk about the host of new offers that OU's been sending out. So in the last 2-3 weeks since spring game, since OU's coaches have been out on the road the last 2 weeks, they've been visiting high schools. They've been barnstorming across the country, especially Texas, visiting lots of Texas high schools. Lots of Twitter action about coaches thanking the OU coaches for coming in and talking to their recruits, looking at their players. So that's led to a host of new offers. And I think the position where OU's probably at the weakest right now in terms of who I would evaluate they're going to get is tight end. And the OU coaches put out several offers within the last 10 days at tight end. So I'm going to talk about 3 of them that I think that I like on film and that have seem to be the most sort of excited about their OU offer. The first is Malachi Coleman. He's from Nebraska. He goes to he attends the high school that Caden Helms attended. He's 6'5", maybe 6'6", but he's really light. He's like 190, maybe 195, but he's flashing like 4.4 speed. He's just flying off the edge. He also, some of his highlights are at linebacker as well. But I think his frame will eventually push him towards sticking at tight end and being an elite tight end. He's got a frame that looks like he could easily carry 220, 230 and keep some of that speed. He just ran a track time under 10.5 in the 100 meters. So he's got legit serious speed. And obviously the Caden Helms connection is going to help OU there in terms of offering Coleman and maybe getting on campus if OU wants to pursue Malachi. He's a top 200 ranked athlete by at least one service. Top 200 in the nation. And he's like a top 10, top 15 athlete. So he would be maybe more of a longer projection, but there's definitely a lot of potential with Malachi. You could probably play him at big wideout while he was putting on some weight to become more of a tight end. I will say this next one is my favorite offer of the tight end group overall, and that is Jelani Thurman from Georgia. He's a 4-star kid. He's ranked in the top 150 by 247. He's 6'6", 225, 230, according to his Huddle profile. And his film is excellent. He's an inline tight end. He's blocking aggressively, throwing kids around. And then from that same inline position, he's flying upfield, getting 30, 40 yards downfield, beating the linebacker, and just scoring long touchdowns. Balls sailing over the linebacker head. He's making good catches, competitive catches against DBs and cornerbacks as well. But you can flank him out, put him in line. If you added him to what we have with Llewellyn and Helms in the future, I think you'd have a tight end threesome that would be a serious weapon for the OU quarterbacks in the future. The other player is a 3-star tight end from Ohio. His name's Jackson McGohan. He's about 6'4", 220. He's a Cincinnati verbal. And before we scoff at that, let's remember that Cincinnati had, 7 draft picks a couple of weeks ago?
So I think they had 9. They had 2 more than we did, I believe.
I think you may be right. I was going with 7 because I knew that number would be right. So before you scoff at that, Luke Fickell knows Ohio athletes and he knows talent. So if you could steal him from Ohio, from the Ohio area, and bring him on in, that would be great. Obviously, the question with Jackson McGohan is Ohio State good offer? Because if not, OU's probably maybe his biggest Power 5 offer. But like with any Ohio kid, like Brian Asamoah, right, who just went in the 3rd round and looks like he's got a good NFL future ahead of him. The key to pulling kids out of Ohio is no Ohio State offer. So it looks to me like OU recognizes that they don't have like a number 1 tight end on their board in terms of someone who they love, who loves them. I think at other positions, they've been putting out some other 2023 offers, but I think tight end is maybe the clearest position where the crystal ball of who OU might sign at tight end is perhaps murkier there than anywhere else. So that's our recruiting tidbit. Let's move on to Broken Arrow's Robert Spears Jennings. I want to keep saying Robert Sears Jennings for some reason. I even though I know that's wrong. So JY, here's a little bit about his recruiting. He ended the year with a flourish. The OU fans voted him into the Under Armour game. I'm not sure if you remember that on Twitter. OU's social media presence got him into the Under Armour game in a wild card spot. And he had a really good senior year. He was a 4-star consensus by 247. ESPN, after they got a chance to review him at the Under Armour game, moved him to the number 107th athlete in the nation. He had offers from Okie State, Ole Miss, Texas Tech. Texas Tech really wanted him as a wide receiver. They thought he was a fantastic wide receiver prospect. But he committed to OU during the summer, and he had kind of this big weekend where he visited OU and worked out at safety for the previous Sooner staff, who immediately offered him at safety. And and Jennings really had to rethink his kind of recruiting because he'd been playing wide receiver primarily before his senior year. So he really had to, accept the opinion of some coaching staffs that said, hey, you're a good wide receiver. You could be a great safety. So he very smartly took that advice. He committed to OU, and after the Under Armour game, Jennings enrolled at OU. So he was able to go through spring ball. During that senior year, he played both sides of the ball. He's very productive. At safety, he had over 50 tackles with 4 INTs. And then at wide receiver, he was able to get 600 yards receiving and 8 TDs. So really very, just a great athlete on both sides of the ball. And at the Under Armour All-American game, he kind of stunned everyone when he won the fastest player award during the skills challenge event they had, when he posted a 4.48 40 laser timed on grass. So, I think everyone thought all the All-American wide receivers at running backs there, we're gonna run better times. No one really thought he was gonna win that. And Robert is not a small guy. He's every bit 6'2", 200 pounds. So once again, just like the other two, Tulsa area guy, kind of a raw DB, but with incredible length and speed for the future at the position. So JY, any other thoughts about Robert before I fire up his highlights?
No, I mean, you touched on it a little bit. Great size, great speed. He's like a heat-seeking missile. I mean, we've almost covered the who's who of Tulsa high schools with Booker T, Union, and now Broken Arrow. We just need a Jenks guy now. And Bixby's coming up, but Spears Jennings is a guy that while Gentry Williams and Jaden Rowe get a little bit more publicity, he's going to be a guy that's no slouch himself. I mean, I think he's going to be a really good player.
Yeah, it's funny because Owasso's been so good and OU's been kind of struck out of Owasso, but we've got the kids from, as you say, 3 longtime Tulsa powers.
Yeah. You see him there at receiver. The thing that jumps out to you about him is his short area quickness. I mean, for a kid as big as he is, he accelerates Watch us get off here.
Yeah, and these are the majority. These are going to be his junior highlights where he's playing wide receiver, and you see the long speed. He just took a simple, simple crossing route, and he just took that, 80 yards with the majority of it, with the ball in his hands.
Yeah, that's that Jeff Badette route, that Hollywood Brown route that, just throw it to him and let him run. I mean, the kid is not short on speed whatsoever, and you love to see that when you're trying to run with these receivers.
Yeah, I mean, so you just imagine, you've seen his big profile. He's running over guys. He's running past guys, at wide receiver. So you just imagining taking, he killed that guy with a sluggo if his quarterback could have gotten the ball a little quicker. That would have looked even more impressive. He's just imagine all of these skills and translate them to safety, because he's a very physical player. As we said, 50 tackles from the safety spot. He's not messing around, and he's got long speed here for days. So, I'm just imagining him at safety, Jaden Rowe at safety, and you've got speed, size, length at the safety spot where you can legitimately move them around, match them up. And, it's not to knock the safeties that we've had in the past, but, you go from Pat Fields, and you go from Pat Fields and
Delaren Turner,
who was drafted, but they're both, they're both 5'11", 180, 190 kind of guys. And then you're talking about moving to two safeties who are both 6'2" and probably easily over, Jennings probably could easily add another 5-10 pounds to his frame and be 6'2", 210. And then we already talked about Jaden Rowe being the Velociraptor at 6'3", 220 back there. I think it could be a real, just bigger athletes, longer athletes with fantastic. You're not giving up anything in terms of athleticism or speed.
Well, and the thing that you got to think about Spears, Jennings, and Gentry Williams is, primarily they were offensive players in high school. So, once they get taught some technique, their ball skills should be off the charts.
And they were already getting interceptions. I mean, their athleticism was already getting them the ball in high school.
Correct. And so, I mean, a lot of times guys play DB because they can't catch. You hear that all the time, yelling at guys on the sideline, hey, that's why you play DB, you can't catch. So these guys are a little bit of an exception to that rule because they got great hands and they got great speed. So if they catch it, that might turn into points going the other way.
Yeah, and again, all three of them, they're a little raw at the position. And again, the past staff, that probably really would have worried me. But the new coaching staff with Hall and Valai, and even Brent Venables himself, because we know Brent wants to coach everybody up. And we know that the support staff is also going to be there, right? They're going to have support staff DBs able to help Hall and Valai with all these young guys as well. So I really think that the raw super athlete is in less jeopardy of being overlooked or underdeveloped with the new staff than whereas in the old staff, you may have worried, because it was like, if the guys didn't click as freshmen, it was like we could never get them on the field.
Right. Because they were only going to regress after that. You didn't see that development. Yeah.
So I really think, this is the underrated group from the defense. The linebacker group is just the stars, right? It's the you give an elite linebacker coach 3 elite linebacker bodies. But this group, I think, may even have more athleticism than the linebacker group. And it's just a question if Brandon Hall and Jay Valai can develop these guys. Because if they can, I mean, you're talking about 3 pieces in the secondary that you've got NFL type numbers on these guys across the board.
Yeah, definitely. It's you got elite athletes all 3 levels of the defense. Something that you just haven't seen that. The MO used to be that Oklahoma was slow defensively on the back end. I mean, especially after they get beat by Florida in 2008 and things like that. But, you know, you always heard the term SEC speed and all that type of thing. Well, I don't know many offenses are going to be able to outrun these linebackers and DBs.
Yeah, I mean, just you know, you're thinking about the back seven, and you're just, you know, I think you know, a good projection for maybe Robert Spears Jennings might be Stephen Parker with better speed.
Yeah, I can see that.
You know, and I think Stephen Parker was one of those guys who was sort of underappreciated and could have really, with a different coaching staff, could have been a much better player. I think Steve did a good job. He was making plays. It just, you know, he just wasn't coached up very well.
I agree with that.
So I think, you know, and he was in the spring game. He played in the second half, so he was out there getting some experience. And I think he was supposed to be over the top on the Gibson long run, catch and run, but he's a freshman. He's going to make mistakes. So,
Sure.
But I think his potential, you know, there's a lot of buzz about him before the spring game that folks were talking that his potential sky high. They love him there at safety, you know, and I think, you know, in rebuilding this defense, the previous staff kind of gave this new staff some gems. I think the linebacker group has got gems in them. I think the DB group does too. And I think the staff recruited some gems on the D line when we started this defensive review. So I'm encouraged about the talent level and athleticism that's coming in. It may not, it's raw. It's not 5-star developed guys like Dindy and Derek Brown that we lost and Marvin Jones that we lost, but it's 5-star athleticism. I'll say that.
Well, yeah, and the luxury that you have too is that you know, he can just sit there and watch what Billy Bowman does and watch what Key Lawrence does and learn. You know,
Yep.
He's not going to be thrust into the fire right off the bat. He's going to be able to get some reps and have some mistakes and mess some things up in practice and learn from.
Yeah, and I think the spring game taught us that we maybe have more defensive depth than we thought, with kids like Kendall Dennis and Josh Eaton playing better, and Ogwobi and Stutzman and Witter and Deshaun White at linebacker. And even up front, it looked like maybe we've got more defensive talent and depth than we realized. So I do think that some of these kids may not see the field this year, but the next year when we start to lose some of those guys and start to lose some of those COVID players with the extra seasons, that this class is going to set us up for some success.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, well, that's us going through 3 Tulsa DBs. Really like this group. Wouldn't be surprised if this group far exceeded their recruiting rankings, and were not some serious high draft picks by this new defensive specialty staff. I think we're able to move on to talking a little bit about some future recruits in our next episodes. But JY, you want to send us off with our usual request for viewers?
Yeah. Hey, gang, shameless plug time here. You got to like and subscribe. Tell your friends about us. Come check us out. Watch our videos. Hit that button at the bottom, and we appreciate it.
Thanks.